started here in a couple of minutes, but look forward to this session. Hey Don, how are you?
Hey, I'm always super awesome and great. I actually went I went to Block Island with my tax partners yesterday and I wore the designated motivator t-shirt. And
Nice.
I think I
Did you have
had
a lot of
30.
fans there?
Oh, I got a ton of fans. Like 30 people were like, all throughout the day, like, oh my God, that's an awesome t-shirt. How do I get one? I go, just Google it. Didn't even say anything else. Just like, Google it.
Nice.
It was super fun. Yeah. How's your summer going?
Great. Yeah, it's super hot here today, but I'm trying to make the most of it.
Yeah.
I've never been to Block Island though. Is that nearby you? I've heard good
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, we take a high-speed
Yeah.
ferry. I'm only 30 minutes from the shore over here in Connecticut.
Oh,
So
nice.
we took the high-speed ferry yesterday. We got on the ferry at 8:30 and got home at 8:30. So it was a long day. But we played cornhole. We played cornhole against this one girl turned 25. It was her birthday, and they were in the cabana next to us, and we're like, birthday. And then they're like, let's play cornhole. And we're like, okay. And we're like, let's go, let's play it. And then we like blew them away every game. They didn't even get past 10 points in one game.
Wow.
We're like, do you want us to be
I didn't
nice
know
to
they were
you?
messing with.
Yeah. We're like, you got these old people playing cornhole. You want us to be easy on you, or they were like, looking at me or chick. I'm like, oh, I'm taking you out. Holers.
So good.
Toss the bag. Holer was awesome.
Hey, everybody that's joined the webinar. We'll get started here in just a minute. This session is hosted by Ignition and joined by my good friend, Don Brolin. Don, you want to say hello for those that just jumped on?
Yeah, sure. Hey, everybody. Dawn Brolin here.
Hi.
Really excited to be here to be with everybody. Hopefully you can walk away with even just one nugget. Tab, I see you, buddy. Even if you walk away with just one nugget and you improve your practice, that's what Ryan and I are here for today. Hopefully we can give you some good tips.
Great. And thank you to the Successful Bookkeeper team for hosting us today. This one happened without their team there. So thanks to the team for hosting us and making our lives easy here. Cool. So it looks like we've already got some people in the chat and we're a couple minutes past the hour. We got a lot to run through. So we'll go ahead and get started. So today's session is going to be very conversational. As I mentioned before, joined by Don Brolin. We'll introduce ourselves a little bit more here in a minute. You'll get to learn a little bit more about Don. And this session is brought to you by Ignition. So for those of you that are new to Ignition, we'll talk about how Don actually uses Ignition in her practice. And then we will be able to go through a quick demo at the end for those that are interested in learning a bit more. But want this to be interactive, want this to be conversational. So if you have questions, I already see some people popping in the chat. That's awesome, or the Q&A. And hopefully we'll get those questions answered. So today's topic is definitely a hot topic, and it's a fun one to talk about. I think Don's going to give some really good advice on this one. So how do we find those ideal clients and, dare I say, fire the bad clients? I think we could all probably list off some of those bad clients quite quickly. And we could probably also sell our favorites. Maybe we'll get Don to tell some stories on that one too. So we'll talk about how Dawn's actually gone through this exercise in her practice. I know her story, so I know what's to come. A lot of really good tips here on how Dawn's kind of really honed in on those ideal clients that her and her team want to work with, and potentially have the others go elsewhere. So hopefully a spicy topic. We'll get some good tips for everybody and hopefully leave with some nice takeaways. As Dawn said before, have at least one good nugget to take away. It'll be worth your hour for sticking around here. So as I mentioned before, we'll run through some introductions. We'll take some Q&A. We'll get that live demo of Ignition for those of you that are interested in learning more. Just a sneak peek on that demo, Don's helped us develop a new template in there. So stick around to the end so you can see we've actually taken some of what Don does in her practice and implemented that into Ignition. So a quick intro for me. My name's Ryan Embry. I'm Director of Partnerships at Ignition. Been with the company close to 9 years. Ignition, we work with accounting and bookkeeping firms all around the world to make it really easy for them to engage their clients and get paid. Enough about me, joined by our wonderful co-host, Don Brolin. Don, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to everyone before we get started?
Yeah, sure. That's my picture from 2017, as one could maybe imagine. Who doesn't use the 2017 picture? You know what I mean? If it works, it works.
I think
Anyway,
mine is 2017 as well. So we're
it was a heck of a year, Ryan, for picture taking.
yeah.
So why would we ruin it? So yeah, so hi, for those of you who don't know me, my name's Dawn Brolin. I'm a CPA, certified fraud examiner, the CEO of Powerful Accounting. We run a firm of 3 staff, including myself. And we have in the past worked with around 250 clients, and we are shrinking that dramatically, and have been over the course of the last 9 months, and keep on Debs from 2010. I love that. That's so great. But yeah, I'm also the author of The Designated Motivator and The Designated Motivator for Accounting Professionals, where I get really fired up and passionate about helping other practitioners make their practice better. Does that mean I know everything? Nope. But what it does mean is that what I have been able to do over the course of the 25 years I've been in business is to set my priorities, set my boundaries, and realize that the technology can do a lot for me so that I can be out of this office. Because I always say in my webinars all the time, I'm like, if I'm sitting in the seat and my butt's getting bigger, it better be filled with cash. And so that's just kind of the way I look at it. I want to do a great job for my clients. At the same time, I don't want to die in my chair. So I've worked really hard to do that. And I'm hoping again today that I can help each and every one of you improve your practice in some way.
Great. So what I want to start with first is I think maybe let's just talk about what the state of affairs was at the firm, let's call it 24 months ago, and kind of when you realized, you mentioned working with up to 250 clients at some point. I guess what really sparked you to realize you need to make a change and maybe lay out kind of how things were looking and operating a couple of years ago in the firm. Then we can kind of talk about some of the transitions you've gone.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, really, we were a firm of 5, and then after a firm of 5, we were down to 4, and then we went from 4 to 3. And so anticipating those changes and understanding that I was not interested in growing my practice where I wanted to work with 250 clients, now it was kind of like down to myself and one other billable person plus an admin, right? And so I knew if I was going to do that, I had a decision to make. Did I want to work more? And because I would have to pick up the slack for other people, did I want to work more or did I want to work less? And so I was like, well, in 2019, when I started coaching college softball, I knew I wanted to work less because I wanted to be on the softball field. So I really found a passion outside of the office that really kind of drove me to want to do things differently, which I mean, I'm always about the technology. I've ever since, I've been in business, I'm always about trying to let the technology automate things and do things for me so that I'm not so transaction driven, which we've done a great job of that. And we've kind of solved for that part of it now. But at the end of the day, when we had so many clients, when you have a lot of clients and you're a small firm, you constantly feel like your hair's on fire. You constantly feel like you're not able to catch up. You're coming in I don't remember the day. I'm like, really, my goal is to come into the office and go, oh, I don't have anything to do. Like, when has that ever happened? I think maybe day 1 of my business when I opened. And so I decided I wanted to start to pare down the client list. And I started to realize, some of you people, and I'm looking at my phone, you clients, some of you people kind of feel like you're my boss. Like, you're always asking me for things and I'm chasing you for documents. I'm chasing you for this. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to work with those people anymore. I want to work, and I have my tax preparer, and this is the last year I'm doing extensions. I'm done with extensions, with the exception of people waiting on a K-1. I don't have a problem with that. But if you can't get your documents to me in time, you can't respond when we ask you for things, you're not my person. So it's that defining who we wanted as the ideal client. And the reasons were because we knew we were shrinking a little in staff, but we just got tired. We got tired of the chasing, the complaining, and the volume. It was like, I decided a long time ago, I'm not coming into my office and logging into my email because the email is not really making me money. It's just not. So there were, a bunch of reasons why we were at that 250, and we're like, let's bring this down to like 50. And we started to make more changes.
Yeah, it's really interesting there. So you mentioned cutting it down. Was it based on maybe the relationship with the client, the type of business, the type of entities? what was that process of kind of paring down the 250 to 50? Was it just kind of gut feel? How did you kind of go about starting to narrow that list down of who you actually wanted to work with?
Yeah, so I'm very we're an inclusive employer, meaning my clients, my staff has say. My staff has say in who we want to work with all collectively. So we got together and we said, okay, let's sit down and go through the client list. And we started with our business clients because those are the ones that are really more than the individual tax returns are where it kind of gets clunky. For example, we have this wonderful young lady who works at a restaurant, but she started her own little egg and cheese side of the road. It's next to a car dealership, a car repair place. It's a great example. Nice young lady, you want to help her. To get a bank statement from her is like pulling off fingernails, is the way I would explain it, right? And so we looked at this, and it really was not about the money. The initial conversations were nothing about money. We talked about, all right, let's go through the business clients one by one, pros and cons. Tracy, what do you think? And Tracy is the ultimate. She's the admin. She's the forward face of Powerful Accounting. She deals with all things clients. So I'm like, Tracy, here's the client list. Let's start with you. Let's go through and let's talk about the ones that are really just you're frustrated with, because I need her to not be frustrated. So we started with that. And then I said, okay, Nicole, your turn. What do you think here? Let's stack rank, and then I'll give my input and what I think. And then we collectively decided on the clients we wanted to work with. And it's all about the ideal client. And the ideal client is different for everybody, I think. Because everybody has their preferences and those kind of things. For us, it was, we wanted to want to work with them. We wanted to say, you know what, if I need to pick up the phone and call someone, am I excited to do that? Or am I like, do I have to do it? And so we started with that analysis. Then we moved over to the financial side of it. So we have our ideal client. We define the ideal client. And then we say, okay, well, from a pricing perspective, from a revenue perspective, we knew we need to make X number of dollars for me to get paid what I want to get paid, for Nicole to get paid what she wanted to get paid, for Tracy. Then we have all of our overhead costs, software and insurance and all that other stuff. We put that all together in a budget. And we said, okay, well, we know what we need to bring in for revenue. Just, I'll say, to break even. Everybody's happy. Everyone's functioning. And then we pulled out the clients and we did a top to bottom, highest paying client to the lowest paying client. And then based on the ideal client, we went right onto that. And we said, okay, here are the maybe out of, I think we had about 75 business clients. Out of these 75, which ones do we already say we don't want to work with? And now let's look at what their revenue is. And we said, we don't care about the revenue. Scratch, scratch, scratch. And those people were eliminated immediately. Then we said, okay, let's look at the ones we agreed, like, let's keep them. What are they paying over the last fiscal year? So we did it in September. So it was like September 1st to September 1st. How much are these people actually paying us to do what we are doing now, which for us at that time was kind of, I'll call it the basics. We're doing the tax return. We're doing some bookkeeping. Some of them we were doing bookkeeping. Some were overseeing the bookkeeping because they have a bookkeeper. And we evaluated and said, okay, well, here's the deal. The one thing we're not doing is charging them the same amount. And we started down the road of the subscription pricing and the relationship pricing. And we said, okay, well, what we're going to do is we're going to take these clients that we want to work with, look at their revenue, and we're going to triple it. Because what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of the 75 where we're making X. Let's just make up a number. Let's say $500,000.
Yeah.
We got, 75 clients and, 175 individuals, business versus individuals, $500,000 with 2 billable people. What can we do? And so we pared that down to 17 clients where we could still make, and it wasn't a $500,000, it was around 400,000, which meant the other individuals, which we then went through the individuals and we're like, and that was really Tracy and I, because Nicole doesn't deal with the tax stuff, but we're like, this person never gets back to us, never gets back. They're gone. Bye, bye, bye. We said, okay, can we bring in another 100,000 between the rest of these guys? And that's how we kind of backed into it, is the way we did it.
Nice.
And it worked really well. And it's including the whole team, because it's not just about me.
How did you go about kind of breaking up with those clients? Was it an email, a phone call? I know you probably don't have. You said bye just now. I don't know if it was that type of a conversation, but how did you kind of manage that? Maybe some longer term clients, maybe some friends even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For those,
How did,
especially
how
the
did you
business,
position that?
yeah, the business clients, let's start with them because the business
Yeah.
clients are, so I called them all. And here's what I offered to them. I said, listen, we're now a team of 3. We can't do the volume of work we've done in the past. So we're looking to change the way we do our business. And that is, we have to build a relationship with each other in that we're talking on a more frequent basis than once a year. Hello. Where, we want to be proactive with you, do tax planning, do business planning, technology consulting, those kind of things. And I said, so here's what we're doing. We're changing the levels start for next year for 2024. But we said, okay, here's the deal. There's 3 levels, $750 a month, $1,500 a month, and $2,500 a month. That's $9,000, $18,000, and $30,000. So we knew when I was having the conversation, I knew what they'd paid me before. So some of them went from paying about $3,500 a year to $18,000. I am not making that up. This one client in particular, all we really did was his tax return. Wonderful guy, loved him, wonderful client, never had issues, always contacted us, always whatever. And then what we did from there is we said, okay, listen, we want to do X, Y, and Z. And so he was paying about $3,500. And I said, tell you what, for $1,500 a month, you can have anytime all access. He was getting some QuickBooks consulting from someone else, and they were never getting back to him. He's like, all I want is a relationship with an accountant who will get back to me. I said, tell you what, Todd, $1,500 a month. He goes, done, sign me up. So I gave them an option, Ryan, right? Yeah. So I because again, as a good business person, as a good trusted person, trusted advisor, I felt like it was not up to me necessarily on the ones we still liked and wanted to work with to decide. But what we didn't do, Ryan, here's what we didn't do. We didn't say, here's the 3 levels, you choose. Mm-hmm. New clients, we do that with. We do here's your choices. These are your 3 levels. And then we see how the relationship goes, and we may need to upgrade them or downgrade them depending on what ends up happening. And we found that people were more interested in having that ability to call us whenever, not get an invoice. We're not doing hourly rates. You don't need to worry about an invoice coming. It's this much a month. You can put it into your budget, and then we move on. So for the existing clients, we helped them pick their plan only because we'd been with them so long. We know who they are. We know their business enough, and we know what we can do for them. And that's so we had conversations with the business clients. With the personal clients, here's what I did. In the beginning of this year, I jacked their prices.
Yeah. I
was like, if I'm going to, I know the tax, because here's why. I know the taxes are all on me. I'm the only one who does taxes in the office, in the firm. So I knew it was on me. So I knew I was comfortable making my own decisions, but I was like, listen, if I have to deal with you, you're going to pay 4 times as much as you paid me last year. And a lot of people went away, which was fine.
Yeah. And
so we did more of that through email or just through the proposal process. And we didn't really spend a lot of time, going through that. So, we have the goal at beginning of 24 to put the individual clients in the relationship pricing where they're just paying for their return month by, they're paying for it by month, kind of spread out their budget a little bit, which may help them. The prices will be increased for sure. Then we'll see what happens, but people are going to pay up front, Ryan, this year, paying up front.
Yeah, totally. We'll get into those mechanics here. I do want to pause and do our first poll question. So Dawn just kind of shared a whole bunch of really useful information. I'll try to summarize it a bit on what she did there, but would love to know for everyone, have you gone through this process yet? Maybe it's something that's been on the list every year and then you kind of just do the same as last year. I know it's tempting to just keep on going without making the change. So we'll give you a couple minutes and we'll look at the results and kind of talk on those here shortly.
Yeah. And Ryan, a great example. I just had a new potential client call on Monday. So from an ideal client for us is we're looking for someone who's willing to invest in the relationship, both presence, being present and responding, and also the value that you put on a firm that's going to commit 100% to you, think about the cost of an in-house CFO. An in-house CFO is going to run you $80,000 to $100,000 minimum, right? So we say for $30,000 a year, you can have access to a CPA, a certified fraud examiner, a certified bookkeeper, an admin who calls back on the daily. You know, we're always getting back to people. This is what we want. And so we told them it was going to be $2,500 a month. And we were only going to do a 6-month contract because they were new and we knew that their level may need to change. And the client emailed back and he said, you know, thanks so much for the conversation. You know, just is not in our pricing, is in our price range. And I was like, totally fine with me. Because if I'm going to do more work, I need to make money. I'm not interested in nickel and diming. And so, you know, I just put out there the way we wanted it.
Nice. Let's go ahead and look at these results here. So interesting. So we've got probably the majority, 68%. So you've got an idea of who that ideal client is. New client comes in the door. You're maybe not getting too picky though. I think it's always that trap of, you know, hard to say no to new business. We've also got some people that are very selective, which is good. So 24% are being selective in this process. I think ultimately, when you think about capacity, if it's just you and a couple others, you and one other, as Dawn said before, you know, if it's taxes coming in, she knows she's going to be the one doing that return and signing that return. So being selective on that front when you know you're the one that's ultimately going to have to deliver on that work too, and also not overworking your staff. As Dawn mentioned before, she knew her staff wasn't too happy with how things were going. She knew that they had some clients they didn't really like working with. So taking the input of the staff and making a change there, as you know, they're probably having a lot more one-on-one interactions there.
And Ryan, so I'd love to just follow up thinking about people who are in the bookkeeping, specifically the bookkeeping business. I am mentioning tax quite a bit. But from the bookkeeping side of it, we also have clients that come in. For us, they have to be, if we're going to do their books, they have to be a tax client. We don't just do bookkeeping for people and then they go. I've done that. I did that for years. We did just bookkeeping and outsourced the tax returns or whatever. But what we're looking for is a full, all-around solution where the client comes. And so from a bookkeeping perspective, that's going to be really important to us. And we have some clients that we really love to work with, but we're trying to get their books done. And we can't get, like, banks got bought out. We can't get the statements. They don't have, the logins aren't working. And it becomes a nightmare. We can't get the client to respond. That is just not our ideal client. So from a bookkeeping perspective, we also, for us, like some people say, I have an idea of my ideal client, but I'm not picky. We won't take on anyone that doesn't use QuickBooks, period. And that's not because any of the Xero or Intact or any of those are bad. Just we know QuickBooks, so we stick to that. We're not right now. And this is where I am. You all are in different places, I'm sure, at where you're growing your business and you want to learn different technologies. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Again, I'm just saying from the ideal client perspective, we want people who are going to use QuickBooks Online. Typically, we don't have many desktop people anymore. QuickBooks Online. They're going to be willing to work with SmartVault for all of our stuff. They're willing to go to ADP for payroll. We will not support any other payroll. Again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with other payroll services. I'm just saying, for me, it's a less of a distraction when I have all of my clients in the same tool. I don't want to have a client in this payroll service and that one and that one and that one. And then I'm like, oh, which payroll service are they in? And it just becomes a brain block at the end of the day. So from the ideal client, that's another key to the way we pick people.
Totally. Yeah. And I think that's interesting with the bookkeeping too. You mentioned, you know, do you set those up expectations up front? So maybe in the past, someone's had an in-house bookkeeper and you're taking over the books. You know, how do you set those kind of terms of agreement of, hey, you're going to have to upload this there, you're going to have this by this date? How do you go on the bookkeeping side, making sure that, and when do you set those expectations and how bookkeeping will work when it's handled by your team?
Yeah, it's all up front. We are from that first call, the first discovery call, which Tracy does most of it. We don't necessarily need to be on it because she knows our ideal client. That's another nice thing for those of you who have staff. If you're feeling like you always have to be the one on that call, And I know some people charge for it, and that's, and you should, because there's 100% chance, 100% chance you're going to give great advice on that first call. So if you're doing that now, to be able to move that over to someone else to do what I just call, the initial discovery call. I'm not saying that Tracy's the one who's like gathers all their bank information, does all this other stuff. She's just saying, hey, listen, what software are you using? Well, I'm in Excel. All right. Well, just so you know, we won't work with business clients who are using Excel for their business books. We require that you use QuickBooks. Are you good with that? If they say, no, I want to stick with my Excel, that call's over. I don't need to be on that call. So because my staff knows those expectations, they can take it from there, and I don't need to be involved until it gets to like, all right, are we taking them or not? And I'm the one who sets the pricing, and I do all of that. So, and we also tell them right from the beginning, again, if you're doing bookkeeping, you are going to be on a monthly relationship. I call it relationship pricing, call it subscription price, call it what you want, but you're on a monthly fee. And this is how we do. We don't do hourly billing. And they're like, oh, well, we don't really want to do it that way. We've always just paid by the hour. Okay, you're not our ideal client. It's no problem. We wish you the best. We can refer you somewhere else, but that's just not us.
So I want to go back to this pricing. You mentioned relationship pricing. You mentioned how you used to price and bill. So maybe take a step back there. Your clients were used to being billed on completion of work, project-based, hourly. Now they are getting a monthly recurring fixed fee. You're auto drafting their bank account or card. Maybe just talk about that transition and maybe how you communicated that to the clients as well too.
Yeah, it's this transition moving to this model, this business model has been amazing. And so again, we use Ignition for our proposals and for our engagements. What's great about it is that I can send the proposal to them and I can put a video. This is like really important. Some people don't, and I know I've been on webinars before, people are like, I don't like to do video. That's okay. You can get somebody else to do the video for you. If you're not comfortable doing it, somebody else can do the video for you, right? There's plenty of talent out there who can handle that message for you. So for instance, like I'll put in the video like, hey, it was great having a conversation with you. It looks like this might be a good fit for us, etc. I'm going to be sending you your proposal. They'll see, they'll get the video and I'll be telling them, okay, this is how we're going to work. We do a lot of things up front. This is how it all ties out. The people love the video because sometimes Tracy's already handled and I told her this is how much it's going to cost. She's talked to the client. I don't even get on the phone with the client yet. Right. And so we send the proposal, but then they get to see me and they get to hear me talk. And I set the expectation. I fire them up because I'm the motivator. And so by doing that, one of the other key pieces about pricing, I think, is really important. Pricing can be emotional. Pricing can absolutely be emotional. And for me, I'm a very emotional person. You probably can't tell that, but I'm a very emotional person. I wear my heart on my sleeve, and this is where we live. But it's like the way I look at it is, if I'm not on the phone, I don't yet have that relationship with them. The minute they sign the engagement letter, they accept that proposal and they make a payment, then I know they're in. Now I'm going to invest in them. And that's immediately a phone call is set up. Then Nicole and I get on there and we start hammering away. Sometimes just Nicole does it. Sometimes we do it together. And so, but at the end of the day, the pricing, got to try to take emotion out of pricing. And that's what Practice Ignition did for us. So there's no emotion anymore. My prices are my prices. And so with new clients, being able to give them options for the new clients, they get options. And then we start that relationship. And then over time, and we tell them right in the video, we set the expectation. Listen, we're setting this pricing up based on what you've told us. But things often change and they're different than what you told us than what we find out. For example, oh yeah, we have one American Express card. And now you start digging into the details and they have 20. Yeah, that's different than the one you told me you had. Well, yeah, we have one account. Yeah, we have 20 cards underneath it. Like, so, and so once we start to learn that, we can say, listen, this isn't going to work. We need to bring you up. We need to bring you from 750 to 2,500 or whatever it may be. And so that's been really helpful to get the relationship started, but you can always shift and make a change.
Totally. Yeah, all really good points there. I think, what would be your advice to folks that have been thinking about this change? I know we kind of summarized getting right into it, but how does someone just take that first step, or what is that first step from changing up the pricing and billing model to increasing a client's prices? Where do we start?
So we could start in a couple places. One of them would be to read Ron Baker's book, Time's Up. So that's one thing. Get yourself, get more education behind it. So here's the way I'm a different person. I know everybody may not have the same kind of thought process, but my whole thing was a mind shift. I was like, okay, what I'm doing is no longer working for me. What I've done in the past and how I've been doing my pricing, how I've been doing my billing, all that stuff. I need to change what I'm doing for my mental sanity. Because at some point in your practice, and if you're new in practice and you're just getting started, you may not have that same, I don't know what you call it, history, for lack of a better word, that experience around growing to a point where you are working 80 hours in a week, right? And there's a difference between being productive in 80 hours a week and just working 80 hours a week. I can sit in this chair for 14 hours a day without a problem. But am I actually accomplishing anything? So if you're at a point in your business where you're like, yeah, I really, really, really want to straighten out kind of my business. I want to take a different path. And Ron Baker, I had dinner with him at Scaling New Heights, and he said to me, Brolin, I want you to understand something. It's okay to close a chapter in your practice. And sometimes closing a chapter in your practice means changing what you're doing now. Meaning, I've always done it this way. I've always done hourly billing. I've always worked 80 hours a week. That's how I've always done it. Does that mean it's the way you always have to do it for forever? No. And so really, it's accepting what you want. What is it that you want? That's the most important thing. What is it that you want in your firm? If you've got people, what do you guys want? Like, I don't want them to ask for vacation time. I want them to just take it. I don't care, right? If your work is done, I don't care. So we just wanted to change. So if you're ready to change, first of all, come to Dawn's Dugout, because I will be there and I will support you. I will encourage you. I will help you, whatever it is you need to shift what you're doing. Because my life is totally different. I've never had a summer like I've had this summer. My summer's been awesome. I went to Block Island yesterday with my tax partners. I'm on my boat more than I've ever been on it before. And really, at the end of the day, for me, I'm so glad that we made this shift. And my employees, Deb, they're remote. Nicole lives like 15 minutes from me. She doesn't come in here. And Tracy lives in Florida. And you know how often I see Nicole? Usually on a Zoom call with a client. She doesn't come here very often. I'll tell you why. I love working in my office by myself. I don't know what that is, but I get so much more done because I'm laser focused. But we just shifted the way we did it. You don't have to do it the way you've always done it. And guess what? And I said this at Scaling New Heights, you are in control. If you're not in control and you're letting the clients dictate how you run your business, how you price things, how you want to operate, we got to fix that right away, because it's still your business. They're paying you, but doesn't mean they own you. So I want people to think about that too. I think that's really important.
So I do want to make sure we get to that second poll question. And then after that, we're going to dig into Ignition a little bit. Dawn's had a really awesome kind of journey on getting started with Ignition. So she'll share some information about that. And we'll run through a demo so you can actually see how it works. So this poll question here, we talked about it before with Dawn. You've got some problem clients. How do you deal with it? I know that scope creep one, we just talked about that, Dawn. I think it's a really good expectation up front too of things are going to change. Because how often do you reevaluate scope, or how often are you going back to the client and maybe updating their service offering?
Yeah, and that does happen, right? So there is scope creep, and usually, because Nicole and I are pretty in communication every day for the most part, and when we are like, okay, this client, they're on relationship pricing, and then all of a sudden they have a DOL audit. Halt immediately. So when things aren't business as usual, what we've agreed to, and something goes out of scope, I'm even going to include, and I know if there's bookkeepers, you don't necessarily do this, but a comfort letter to the bank. Hey, we need your CPA to put in writing that they've been doing your tax return for 5 years and that you are self-employed and blah, blah, blah. I will never put in a letter that says, I guarantee if they take this loan that their business will not suffer from it. That never happens. That's not a thing. No, 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 never. But that letter to the bank is totally different. I mean, totally different. That does hit your E&O. Like you're putting yourself, there's some liability there. So instantly I say, hey, listen, I know we're in the relationship pricing, but this is a whole separate deal. And we stop, we go into ignition, we send them a new engagement letter for that particular project or letter or whatever it may be. You sign it, you pay for it, we'll do it. And that's kind of how we do it. But when you have problem clients, I want to talk about this one because I know we got to get to the demo, but the problem clients, I love that people are answering here. Sharing the obstacles, I love that. So I see a lot of people are in there. Less and less attention. And, I love that people with honest conversations, afraid of ruining the relationships, ruining your reputation. At the end of the day, if you have a client that's just like they're out of control, number one thing I always tell my staff, we talk about this all the time, number one, we're not punching bags. So something goes wrong. If something goes wrong and it's on me, I was on a call with someone this morning and I didn't write a penalty abatement letter for someone that they needed it done. And I'm like, Tammy, that's on me. I swore I sent it. They got another notice. I said, listen, I'm stopping what I'm doing right now. And I'm going to get that letter out the door today. And it is already out the door today. And I have no problem admitting when it's me, but when it's the other way around and they start coming at you, which they do, that's when I will get on a phone call. Cause I'm one of those rip the Band-Aid off people. At the end of the day, if they're angry, upset about something and they're difficult, they're already either talking crap about you or they're already over there. You're not going to ruin anything more than it probably has already been ruined. And it's not necessarily your fault, but we can't control the way the client reacts or what they do and what they don't do. At the end of the day, when you've done something wrong. And that's where you rip the Band-Aid off, have that honest conversation. If it's something that they have done and they're acting like jerks, that's not you. And Eric Green and I are very good friends. And Eric Green always says to me, we support each other. And Eric will say to me, he goes, Brolin, just remember, we didn't do this to them. So for instance, their books are an absolute train wreck and they got to get ready for a tax return. They're like, I need this done tomorrow. It's like, well, this doesn't happen overnight. And so we're working on it. And if they're just continually like on you, I'll have those phone calls and I'm just not going to, and I share the obstacles. That's another thing. So you have an honest conversation and sharing obstacles to try and improve the relationship. If that doesn't go the right way, it's an automatic, we're done. We are done. I am not dealing with this. We had one guy who was so nasty, is the worst client we've ever had, 2019, 2020. And he was threatening our families. That was the worst. Yeah, that was the worst client experience I've ever had in 25 years. And we had to literally get the lawyers involved. I was like, I said this one thing, I go, you need to understand something. You are barking at the wrong tree because I'm not somebody who's going to let you talk to me like that. And I've had experiences where, not often, but clients I'll call up and they just start screaming at you. And I just sit back and let them do it. And then I'll say, let me know when you're done. And I wait. And usually it's a wicked, awkward pause. Just like that. Right? You just sit there.
Yeah.
And then I'll ask again, are you done? Okay, so are we going to be adults and talk through this? Or are you going to be like my 17-year-old daughter? How are we going to do this? And usually they're like, I'm sorry. I'm just really, cool. I get it. We all have crap. We all have stuff. But that doesn't mean you can bring your stuff to me because I won't bring my stuff to you. So we've got to have this mutual respect. Are we going to be able to do that moving forward? They'll either say, well, okay, we're done. But you'll find it surprising when you can stand up for yourself in a professional way. It changes the relationship in some ways really positive because they are like, you are right. I am so sorry. I had no right to talk to you that way. And I had a client do that. He was an IRS representation audit. And I probably talk to this guy every single day. And what he was going to owe like $1 million. He was not happy. And he called me and he was like, I don't, and he wasn't yelling at me. He was just upset at the situation. But he was like, next day he called me. He's like, Dawn, I am so sorry for the way I talked to you yesterday. And I was like, honestly, I didn't take any offense to it because you weren't saying it against me. You're mad at the IRS and you can yell all about the IRS. I'll yell with you. But it's just like you start to have that conversation of like, respect me. I'm a professional here. I'm working hard. I want to do my best work for you, but you need to treat me with respect. And so those problem clients, and if they can't come around, and if they ever speak badly to my staff, they can do it to me all day. You do it to Trace. I hear a bad thing coming for Trace that you treated her bad, or Nicole, it's an immediate firing. I don't even care what your explanation is. I don't want to know what's going on in your life. You're not treating my staff that way. You come to me. I just draw the line, Ryan. I'm not doing it.
I love it. I think it's great advice. And I think we've all been in those situations, and, turn the tables on them, speak to them like humans, and everything can be worked through. And there is a solution for every problem client. They don't have to continue to be a problem client. And I think we're getting a lot of people that agree there. So we are going to switch pages here. I'm going to share my screen again if I can figure that out. Can you see the slides again, Dawn?
Yep.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, cool. So I know there was some conversation in the chat about, hey, there was someone looking for a different kind of firm management solution. So maybe, Dawn, let's just start there. There's a lot of different apps out there. You use a whole bunch of different awesome apps to run your practice. Maybe just give a rundown on how Ignition fits into the mix, what kind of problems it solved for you, and then we'll get into the demo bit. And you can even speak to some of the other apps you use to run your practice as well, too, because I know folks are always interested in that.
Yeah. So we've really honed in on what works and what isn't working for us, and always wanting to look for integrations, which is why Ignition was an easy switch for us. We were with an app called Quotient. I almost forgot the name of it. Was called Quotient, and it did a great job. It would send the engagement letter, and they would accept the proposal, and that was all good. I could even push an invoice into QuickBooks, but then I had to collect all the payment information and do all that stuff, and I did that for a good handful of years. And I'm like, why am I in the middle of this? So switching from an engagement proposal payment tool and eliminating my need to physically do and handle the payments, gathering credit card information and Tracy typing it in everywhere. First of all, risky. Number two, wasn't very efficient. We were also, we just switched over to Financial Sense for our workflow tool, our practice management and workflow tool. And what I love about that is that it is currently right now, and it should be within, don't quote me, but within the next quarter, we will have direct SmartVault integration. And I love SmartVault. If anybody knows me, they know I love SmartVault. And so I want to make sure that my technology is integrating. But to run my practice, we're using Financial Sense. For my proposals, we're using this, and we're using Ignition because it syncs with QBO. So I don't have to do anything with regards to posting the invoice or posting the payment. Ignition does all of that for me. I can go in at any time and go and see how much money is going to hit my account. And it tells me what day it's going to hit my account. So from a cash flow perspective, I can monitor that. Makes it really easy. And then we're using like tools. If you think about the bookkeeping side of it, tools that we use we're only using QuickBooks. Most of our clients are QuickBooks Online. We're connecting ADP to QuickBooks so that the journal entries and the payroll is actually posted correctly, Bookkeeper, so you don't have to do anything. All you have to do is go into bank feeds and click match. And that's the great thing about Ignition too. When we go into QuickBooks Online and we go to our bank feeds, we're just matching to the Ignition payments. I mean, I just want you all to know, if you're doing bookkeeping and you are actually accepting transactions within the bank feed, I would say the majority of your transactions, you're probably missing something, because you should just be able to go into your bank feeds and match everything, because the other tools should be doing that work. So, and I'm talking about my own personal books, but if you're doing bookkeeping for other people, using an app like Bookkeep is an app that connects, almost any kind of point of sale to QuickBooks Online and puts the journal entry in there properly. Again, now we're just going in and we're matching. As a matter of fact, the Accounting Cornerstone Foundation, Ryan, we finally got our QBO file all set up and connected it to Bookkeep, because we accept donations through Stripe online. And it was myself, it was Vanessa Vasquez, and Megan Tarno, and the three of us were on a call, and within a half an hour, we had all the books all done and up to date because we had connected it to Bookkeep. So if you're doing those types of things manually, I think you're missing out. I think you're missing out. And there are so many more. I mean, we're using Corpay One for all of our payables. Again, it's invoices are going in there and we're hitting pay the invoice, and then it goes into QuickBooks. We're not doing anything else. Having approval processes. I mean, we're just killing it. And that's the key. Like Nicole can handle 70. We don't, these aren't small clients. These are decent sized clients. She's able to handle all that bookkeeping because of the tools we're using. And so 17 may not sound like a lot of bookkeeping clients, but for one person, it's a lot. It's a lot. So, you know, think about your tech stack, and you can go see my tech stack up on dawnbrolin.com and you can check it out. But we're all about the integrations, man. And Ignition solved for like that big pain point of cash flow, which is huge, taking emotion out of pricing and automating that process so we never have to worry about when the money's coming in, because it's coming automatically.
Great. Thanks, Dawn. So I put some links into some of the other apps that Dawn mentioned she's using to run her practice. But what I want to show you here is a sample proposal in Ignition. We'll show you how to create one of these shortly. We'll actually show you a template that Dawn helped us create that she uses in her firm. So this is what your client would see. You'd send them a digital proposal. They'd get an email. You can put in that video. So Dawn mentioned she uses video in her firm. You can use something like a Loom video where you actually record and talk the client through the proposal, or you've got maybe a brand video. You could put that in there too. Also, you've got a brochure. So again, just a nice professional branded look here. You can provide your client with options. So in this case here, it was a mix of bookkeeping and tax services. We've got different proposal templates for bookkeeping, payroll, tax, QuickBooks services, whatever you might offer to your clients. Want to make it really easy for you to package and price those services and present them to your clients in a really easy way. This example here is a 3-option proposal. So if you did want to give your clients different levels of services and let them select, you can also just give them that one final service and have them select which one works best for them. You can see what's included there. So something like bookkeeping, you can see what's included in that. So we've got limitations there. Really a good tip there is if you are doing bookkeeping, you know, there's not one, every business is different. Some are big, some are small. You know, you shouldn't be charging the same price to everyone. So having different tiers and levels to your services there. Being able to explain to the client how that's billed every month. So in this case, we want to build on that monthly recurring fee and maybe project work on completion. Capturing the payment information. So Ignition acts as that payment provider. Dawn mentioned switching all of her payments over to Ignition. So her clients actually will enter in their bank or card details here. They only have to do that once. They sign their engagement letter and they get paid on time. Dawn, any comments on that kind of client experience flow, how that works for you with your clients?
Yeah, I mean, really at the end of the day, we have, let me just tell you this. You know how sometimes you have those clients, they're like, oh, but they can't, you know, they're having trouble with, you know, we use Lisio for like client communications, and they're like, well, they're having trouble with this or they're having trouble with that. I mean, I'm not saying people have trouble with Lisio. I'm just using an example. They're having trouble with whatever. We haven't had one person, not one client, who's been like, I can't figure out how to accept your proposal. Not one. Not one person has called up and said, we're not going to enter our bank information or our credit card information. We're not going to do that. We'll give it to you when you're done with the work. That's never happened so far. Not saying it won't happen in the future, but I'm saying so far, they're pretty much just bang. They love it. As a matter of fact, I get a lot of messages saying, Brolin, we love the video, because I always do something really fun, you know?
Cool. So I'm back in Ignition here. So you can have your access to your account here. This is where you create a proposal. So if you're new to Ignition, we've got this template library here. So you can see we've got those provided templates. So we might have some folks, Canadian folks on the line here too. So whether in the US or Canada, wherever in the world, we've got kind of tailored services to the most common offerings. And the really cool thing we've been able to do is take proposal templates from generous folks like Dawn who are willing to share her template. So you can see we've recently added in this relationship pricing, 3-tiered options. You can see it's Dawn's template here. So I'll just click into this here, and then maybe Dawn, you could explain the different levels of service here and how someone could actually take this and tailor it to how they might run their firm. So we've got, foresight, controller insight, and accountant hindsight. And then within each one of those, we've got different deliverables of what's included. Don, over to you to kind of explain how you came about this template and some tips you might have for someone using it.
Yeah, it's really funny too, because the person who helped me get this started was over a year ago, was Mike from Giraffe. So Mike Triantos spent a lot of time with me walking through how these 3 different levels would work, because we wanted to do cash flow forecasting and budgeting and things like that with clients. And we wanted to make sure that it was something we could set up a dashboard for the client and they could work through it and whatever. Anyway, so he and I kind of worked through this together, and we came up with these levels of pricing and understanding what that would look like. And then we sat down as a team, myself and Nicole, and said, okay, what do we want to include or not include in these packages? And part of the reason why, especially for the existing clients, we chose which one we wanted them to choose. We said, this is where you land, you in or out. That's kind of how we did it. But what's nice about it is we were able to customize based on our tasks. So in this example, we're doing the full bookkeeping. We also have where we're not doing the bookkeeping, we're overseeing the bookkeeping. So we have some little nuances that we have to change here and there within the list of deliverables. But really, at the end of the day, we took everything we were already doing, listed that out, not ad nauseum, people. Don't get hung up on feeling like you have to list every single thing you do, because you don't. Because we know we do more than what we list right here. But what ends up happening is when we start to get, like I was saying, the scope creep into different things, that's where you can say, stop, this isn't included in our package, because we really outline the things we know we need to do for them in the outline. Anything we do out above and beyond on that, to them is a bonus, right? And so that's kind of how we thought about it. And of course, the recommended button. So what I like about the recommended is if it's a new client and we've had that kind of, initial preliminary call, I can go right in there and change which one I'm recommending. So I may recommend the $750 for one person or another one for the $2,500, and everyone seems to be different, but everyone falls into one of 3 categories is the way we look at it. And so what I would also recommend is that you start higher than lower. And that was a mistake I made. We were $750, $1,500, and $3,000 or $2,500. I should have been $1,250, $2,750, and $3,750. We should have been higher. We're not satisfied, but I know that what we do and what we offer, the value is a lot more. It's not about the time it takes you to do things. It's about the value you're giving. So that's kind of how we went through our process. Again, here are the things we already do. Here are the things we want to do. More things that we've never done budgeting with you before. We've never looked at workforce planning. We've never looked at, let's look at your insurance policies and can we save you money there? I mean, that's other things we can, life insurance recommendations are on this thing here. Accountable plan setup, if estimated tax planning, if people are always owing taxes at the end of the year, why do we not have them in EFTPS and set them up for an automatic every week or every month, make a payment? Let's just get something into the IRS and into the state. So we just knew we could do more for people. We started with the basics and then went off from there.
Love it. So as I mentioned before, I did put a link to create a trial. So if you did want to check this out, again, you just go in, create a new proposal, go into our template library, the provided templates. You can take that template right here, the relationship pricing template, tweak and modify it. And again, we've got other ones in here. So whether it's, maybe it's just basic bookkeeping services, 1099s, whatever it might be, hopefully we've got a template in here that you can start with. You can always add in your own information, but we wanted to make it as easy as possible to start engaging those clients. This hour is absolutely flying by, and I know we have another poll question, so I want to make sure I can get to that last one. So we just did show Ignition. Dawn talked about how she used it in her firm. What are your next steps? Would you like someone from Ignition to reach out? Maybe you're already using Ignition and happy with it. So be awesome if you could answer that last poll question. I'm going to look at it. It's like there's some Q&A in chat too. Does anyone have any last questions for myself or Dawn? Feel free to pop those into the Q&A or chat here. We can get to those before we wrap.
Yeah, the one thing I would say, Ryan, for people who are not right now utilizing Ignition and you're handling and managing payments all by yourself and you're dealing with cash flow and I did that for years. That was one of I would say one of my biggest failures as a self-employed person hiring other people, is that because of the way I was operating my business, I was always worried about payroll. Always worried about payroll. And now, because of the combination of the relationship pricing and what Ignition is doing for us, payroll for the month is in the bank account on the 2nd of the month. Processes on the first, second, third. Within the first couple days, we have our money and we could get to work. And my life personally is so much better because I'm not worried constantly if I can pay the bills. Do I have enough to do this? Like, it's the shoemaker's kid, man. We never take, we recommend all this stuff to do all these things to our clients, and then we don't do it for ourselves. And that's maddening. And I realized over time, that's on me, man. So, for those of you who are still, and you want it to be integrated, you don't want to be dealing with having people's payment information. That's a real risk of any kind of theft of credit card information or even ACH information. So I just want people to think about that, because it's more to me about having consistent, steady cash flow, not exposing myself to risk with having people's payment information. And then on the third part, having it all integrated, and I don't even deal with it anymore. I don't need someone to deal with it because Ignition does it for me. And that's the way I look at my tech stack. I look at my tech stack as an extension of my staff. It's like I've hired I'll say an accounts receivable manager is what I've done through Ignition, and Ignition handles all that for me. Just like with Bookkeep, I hired another bookkeeper by just having Bookkeep connected to Stripe so that nobody really actually has to do the bookkeeping. It's all automated. That's where we need to be. And I love Dan in here was giving some great advice. 100%, Dan. If you are entering transactions, I tell Nicole, the minute you go like this to enter a transaction, stop, put your hands up. You're under arrest. Like to jail you go. And this is just another piece of another tool that will help solve for that.
Great. I love that. I think, thinking about your applications as a, full-time employee, I think you could buy every single app on that tech stack and some more, and it's probably going to be significantly less than adding a new team member. So obviously you want to have a process in place to bring on all those apps to get the most of them. But I think when you think about them too much as a cost there and not about the additional value and time savings you're going to get for them. Well, that was an amazing session, Don. I know it flew by. We're almost to the top of the hour. I put in some links there. So if you wanted to create a trial with Ignition, you wanted to book a demo, we did do that. Check out those other apps that Dawn mentioned that she's using as part of her tech stack. Dawn, I know you mentioned Dawn's Dugout before. If folks wanted to connect with you or learn more about how they can get involved, what would you recommend?
Yeah, I think go to dawnbrolin.com. I've got free resources in there, like all my pricing, all the templates around Ignition that I had, where I have like letters that I created to be able to send to clients. I'm explaining the relationship pricing. That's all in there. You grab it, use it, abuse it. That's what I'm here. I want to help everybody. But there's also an events tab. If you go for Dawn's Dugout, my whole thing is we do this great webinar, we give great information, and the conversation ends. It's over. And that really frustrated me over the last few years. So I'm like, okay, that's it. I'm going to create Dawn's Dugout. Coach Brolin will be in the dugout. Like I said, it's not that I know everything, but people that come also, like Dan gave some great information in the chat here. Other people give their opinions and ideas on what they're doing, what's working, what's not. Would love to see. That's probably the best place. It's once a month, usually the second Monday of the month, unless there's conferences, but would love to see you. They have to register for it because we have to know how many people are coming. I want to know. And you can submit questions ahead of time. If you're like, I want to talk about this. Okay, well, good. Then I'm prepared. But just come and be with us. Dawn's Dugout, Coach Brolin, ready to kick butt for you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Dawn. This was an awesome session. Hopefully we'll see you in person soon. If it's not next month, I know QuickBooks Connect for sure. So hopefully soon enough, and hopefully get to meet some of the wonderful folks that tuned in today at an event sometime soon. But thanks for taking the time out of your day. Hopefully it's a beautiful summer day wherever in the world you are today, so you get outside to enjoy the wonderful weather. It's a bit hot here, so hopefully it cools down a bit. But thanks everyone, and wonderful session. And thank you to Successful Bookkeeper for giving us the platform and inviting us to come on here today. But thanks, everybody. And we'll see you all sometime soon.
Always
See
fun,
you, Don.
Ryan. Take care, bud.
Yeah.
Thank you.